It's a first line day. Today we look at gate 62, the gate of details, and the first line, which is called routine. All first lines act as a foundation for a hexagram. This first line, called routine, this is the nature of being organized. The nature of being able to come up with the facts is rooted in a ritual of life in which that process is a routine that goes on all the time. It never stops. The human design system has a mystical source, but it is a logical system. As long as it exists in the world, there will be people who want to test it, and rightfully so. Everything that is logical is endlessly tested. This is the nature and the beauty of logic. For every test, we confirm or not the validity of a pattern, and then we can project it into the future. So the foundation of what detail is, this routine, is actually, it's rooted or grounded in Neptune, in this first line, in the exaltation. And that tells us that detail can sometimes be a bit fuzzy. It can also have a profoundly mystical and creative angle too. And the first business of detail, if you like, is the ability to transcend the boredom of routine through a rich and daring fantasy life. The ability to organize the detail through fantasy. This is the exaltation. When many people think about the 62nd gate, they have an image in their mind of a sort of cosmic accountant doing the numbers and checking all the details and the facts and giving things names, making sure the paperwork is correct. And yes, that's a part of it, of course, but that's not really the whole of it. It's about the detail for life itself. It's about being able to detail the pattern of life itself. Remember, this is logical circuitry. It's always looking to see where the pattern can be improved, what's working, what isn't working. The pattern of life might be describing the way in which a cell works, or in the way in which muscles move in the body when it's running. It has as much to do with that as it does figuring out the monthly accounts. So it's very easy to put things in boxes, but don't limit the experience here. Fantasy is actually an essential element for this process. Logic is about being able to prove a theory experimentally, and yet the throat cannot do that. What the throat can do is imagine and describe its imagination of how that experiment could take place. And in order to do that, fantasy is an incredible and deeply creative tool. It's the ability to fantasize that gives understanding its acceptability. We have teachers, you've probably had this experience when we were in school, who bored the crap out of us. They did not have that way of infusing language with life. If we were lucky, we did have some teachers that had a kind of a flair. Maybe they did have that access to fantasy and they could use their language to inspire and to offer logical understanding, but to make subjects truly come alive. In the detriment, we have rebellion and its enormous waste of energy. The need for expression, which ignores the details. A 1762, the channel there, if it is cut off from the rest of the design, it is usually described as a verbal gunslinger. Often they can bring out partial detail, and that is what we hear in this detriment. And it's not about good or bad. Sometimes it's absolutely essential just to get the understanding out without having to go into all the detail. But of course, when you're dealing with logic likes to have all of the aspects there. It's strange to think of this manifestation gate of logic having such a strong connection to fantasy, but so often the detail of the 60-second gate is built on fantasy. It's built in the imagination. If this works, what will happen next? And then what will happen after that? And this is a sort of an inner logical process of trying to see how the pattern will work. But it's a fantasy. It doesn't have to be reality. It's a way of exploring logic. And fantasy is just a mental process in which we look inwards at the mechanics of what that logical pattern is, and we try to see all the possibilities that are there before we then present it to the collective. So if we don't take the time to do that, then we get all sorts of people coming up saying, so is that true? And can you prove that? And then you've got to back up what you've got with facts, and you've got to sort of, it becomes quite confusing and complex again. And where are those facts going to come from if you haven't gone through this inner process of looking at all the possibilities and sorting all the details and getting them into that system and making that a routine that you do that? Ra, he had his gate. He had this gate 62, line 1 in his design, Earth. So he was given the human design system by the voice, and he then spent 2 years by himself before he started sharing it. He checked his own chart, he watched the moon, and this was all new information for him. So he had to go through a learning process before he could do anything with the knowledge that he was given. He had to explore in detail and with caution before he told anybody. He had to patiently wait as he watched the process go through his own system. He had to make sure that the details were there before he began informing people, because he knew that he was going to meet all kinds of resistance. So he had to get his ducks in a row. The 61-1, this is the grounding, the earth grounding the sun. And we have in the first line, occult knowledge. So occult knowledge just means hidden knowledge, something that's occult. It comes from the root of occluded, so it's just hidden knowledge. It doesn't mean that it's esoteric and really mystical or anything like that. So perhaps the inspiration that comes through this individual head gate can feed into the fantasy and imagination of gate 62 and help to ground those details through routinely examining all the angles. Mars goes into gate 8 at 1:45 tomorrow morning, 00:43 to be precise. This is called holding together this gate, the gate of contribution. And here we find the basic worth that is realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. This is an individual throat gate. And there's a deep need to contribute something unique to the collective. It's something that attracts the attention of the collective. And it can lead to a new kind of identity based on that contribution, because it goes into gate 1, the other end of the channel, which is a G-center gate, G-center being about identity. The contribution in gate 8 can manifest in many different ways. Very often it's very creative. And it can vary from promoting others to creating its own creative potential. It could just be in terms of having a really unique individual lifestyle. And this then can have the possibility of changing the direction for the collective through that contribution. Venus goes into gate 31 at 8:32, and this brings us a channel with Mercury, which is in gate 7. This is the channel of the Alpha, a design of leadership for good or bad. There is great potential here for the leadership role and knowing what needs to be organized for our collective future. The 31 is logical throat gate. It has a gift for understanding patterns and presenting them to the collective when invited to do so. Leadership has to be recognized and then invited. It is a projector gate. So the moon is currently still in gate 46, and then it begins its monthly journey around the splenic center, beginning with gate 18, Are you getting familiar with this process? Gate 18 at 10:59, so a couple of hours away, hour and a half away. This is the gate of correction. We're working on what has been spoiled. This gate can feel easily dissatisfied with imperfections and has a keen ability to spot flaws and weaknesses and to correct them. And this can be something that it sees in the wider world. It could be a picture on the wall that is slightly out of true. These are the sorts of things that this gate can see really easily. So it's focused on patterns because it's logic again. It's that logic collective circuitry. So it's looking for patterns and correcting those patterns in order to make sure that going forward, we've got all our bases covered and we can be secure. There can be a discomfort with authority in this gate and a strong drive to challenge authority. Initially, it usually comes out with challenging parents, so you have it in that family setting. But then it matures into anywhere it is perceived to be out of order, where somebody is undermining personal or collective well-being through their authority, misusing their authority. This is something gate 18 comes out over. Then moves into gate 48 at 22:25. This is the well, the gate of depth, with its deep-rooted instinctual memory and innate wisdom, and which can be used to solve problems, bringing depth to whatever issues it focuses on. And it wants to have workable solutions which will improve conditions for everybody. Again, it's logical, it's collective. It wants whatever it does to benefit everyone. So it's again looking for flaws in the pattern so it can solve that problem and bring a resolution. And even though it's the gate of depth, there can be a tendency towards insecurity and feelings of inadequacy. And these can be overcome to some degree by waiting to be recognized and called out before sharing your wisdom. Because again, this is a projector gate. And then we go into gate 57 at 9:51 tomorrow morning. And this is the gentle. This is the gate of intuitive clarity. It's the ability to penetrate to the core of any situation in the moment and find clarity with an instinctive awareness in the now. Something that is acutely attuned to sounds and vibrations in the environment, things that are going to help the physical well-being of the form. When this gate is activated consistently in your design, it really pays to give attention to your instinctual hunches. When it's experienced through the moon's transit, it brings a focus on intuition and it can drive us towards clarity in the now. But this is not an energy that is consistent for us, so it's not something for us to hold on to and sort of embrace and pretend that it's us. We hold these transit energies lightly because we know, depending on what is activating them, if it's the moon, it's going to be fairly quick. Yeah, we might not have that experience for very long at all, maybe 11 hours or so. So this is our weather forecast for today. Thank you, as always, for joining me. And I will see you for the 62 line 2, which is my personality Earth. I will see you for that tomorrow. I look forward to sharing that with you. And until then, have a great experience with this 62-1 transit, and I will see you soon. Take care and go gently.